I want to look at all of the got it problems on page 44 and 45, just so you can check and make sure that you did them correctly. So let's look at the ones under example number 1. Now, example number 1 is just showing us the rule for negative exponents. And if you watch the Khan Academy videos, you should know that any base taken to a negative exponent is going to be written like this. So that's what they're asking us to do with that first example. So for letter A, they give us 7 to the negative 2. And they just want us to write it with a positive exponent. So we're going to write it like this. And that's all you do. Basically, what they're wanting you to do is practice changing things from negative to positive by putting them on the bottom of a fraction. B is b to the negative 4. To change that to a positive exponent, we just put it underneath a 1 and change the exponent to a positive. C is 5 to the 0. Now, this is a different rule that I talked about in my previous video when I talked about the powers of 10. And this is also on the poster that I posted in the classroom, Google Classroom, and is posted in my actual classroom. And the rule is any number to the 0 power is 1. And if you want to know why that is, you can go back and watch my other video and read the rule and look at the negative exponents video, which will also talk to you about that. Letter D has m to the negative 3rd. Again, it's a negative exponent. We put it under 1 and change it to a positive. And that's for example 1 and 2. Now, if we look at the ones for example 3, basically, they're asking you to do the opposite. They're giving you a positive exponent or a number that can be given a positive exponent and asking you to write it with a negative exponent. So the first one we get is letter E, and they give us 1 over 8 to the 3rd. Now, to write that with a negative exponent, we would just write this. Since they've already given us the example with a positive exponent underneath a 1 as part of a fraction, we can write it with a negative exponent. Now, letter F is a little trickier. They have 1/4. Well, how would we write that with a negative exponent? There's no exponent there. Some of you might say, well, we could write 4 to the negative 1, and we could do that. That would be okay. The other thing you could do is you could say, is any number times itself a 4? Well, it is. Actually, this is also equal to 1 over 2 squared, because 2 squared is 4. So you could also write this as 2 to the negative 2 or 4 to the negative 1. Either one of those would be right. Letter G, they give you 1 over c to the 5th. We're just changing that to c to the negative 5th. Again, we're following our rule up here. We're just doing it the opposite way. Now with H, they give you 1 over 27. Again, you could do 27 to the negative 1, or what I know because I've been doing this for a while is that 27 is 3 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. If you guys ever did factor trees, that's what this is. 27 is basically 3 times 3 times 3, or 1 over 3 to the 3rd, which also can be written as 3 to the negative 3. So that's how you switch things from positive exponents to negative exponents. Now we're going to look at doing some of our operations with negative exponents. We're still going to be following the same rules, but we are going to have negative numbers to deal with. So we need to remember our rules for negative numbers when we're multiplying and dividing. So let's look at examples J through M. Example J, 3 to the negative 8 times 3 squared, or 3 to the second power. Now, if you look at our rules in the handout or in the poster that I posted, we know when we multiply like bases, what are we going to do with the exponents, guys? We're going to add them. So this is going to equal 3 to the negative 8 plus 2. So we need to remember what we're doing here with negative numbers. Negative 8 plus 2. I like to explain it sometimes. If I owe you $8, I'm in the negative 8, and I pay you back 2, how much do I still owe you? Well, I still owe you negative 6. If you were to want to write this with a positive exponent, and sometimes on your IXL they may ask you to do things with a positive exponent, we could write it 1 over 3 to the 6th. Let's look at our next example. It's a division problem. We have 11 squared over 11 to the 4th. Now, when we divide exponents, like terms with the same base, we're dividing, we subtract our exponents, guys. So this is going to be 11 to the 2 minus 4. Well, 2 is a smaller number, right? So if we subtract 4, our answer is going to be negative. So we're going to end up with 11 to the negative 2, or we could also write it 1 over 11 squared. If they wanted you to write it all the way out, you could put that into your calculator and you would get 1 over 121. Right now, guys, I'm more interested in making sure that you're getting these exponents right. So you do not need to work them out all the way. Letter L. We have n to the 9 times, make that a little longer, n to the negative 4th. Now, again, we're going to be adding our exponents, right? So we have n to the 9 plus negative 4. This might seem a little tricky because we're adding our exponents, but when we actually go to do the math, we're adding a negative number, so it's the same as subtracting. So be careful with your negative signs and use parentheses, guys. That will help you make sure you're doing the correct operation, but still getting the right answer. So this becomes n to the 5th. And for our last example, we have b to the negative 4th over b to the negative 7th. Again, we're still going to follow the same rules. When we divide, we subtract. But we are going to have b to the negative 4th minus negative 7. Now, what happens here, guys? What happens when we're subtracting a negative? Well, what happens when we subtract a negative is it's the same as adding. These two negative signs come together to create a positive. They cancel each other out and become positive. So this is actually, even though we're dividing, we're subtracting a negative. So it becomes negative 4 plus 7. Now, if you want to think of an easier way to do this, we can rearrange the order that we're adding these in. And we get b equals 7 minus 4. And that gives us b to the 3rd power. Those are the examples for this lesson. And hopefully that will help you understand a little more on how to do the independent practice, which is going to be on page 47, and which will be your next assignment. I want you guys to message me, email me if you have any questions. Again, we can always set up a one-on-one video conference so we can talk about problems you're having with the homework. So please let me know if there's anything you're not understanding. Make sure you watch your videos, rewatch them if you're struggling. and let me know if you're having any problems. Have a good day.